The hour of 7 o'clock having arrived, I'm going to call the council to order. Let the roll reflect that all council members are present and a quorum has been established. Before us, council, we have the minutes of the city council workshop of February 20th and the regular city council meeting of February 20th as well. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes of those meetings? Okay, seeing none, they stand approved. Council items to be considered. Any council items to be considered? Melanie, please.
Your Honor and Council, in light of the weather tonight, we have chosen to postpone the presentation on the Vitals Mental Health mobile app to our next council meeting on March 19th. So it asks that you support that adjustment. Thank you.
And I will let folks know that tonight the city council had scheduled a workshop earlier this evening at 5:30 with MnDOT to talk about the Highway 316 issue. That has been postponed until the 19th as well. So we'll probably get together on at that time. Councilmember?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's rather ironic that MnDOT could not make it to the meeting this evening, irregardless of the snow. But we'll let it go this time.
Well, safety is always a factor, so thank you. Next, council, we have the consent agendas before us. What's your wish? Consent agenda. Councilmember Brox makes a motion to approve, second by Councilmember Fulch. That motion is now before the body. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next, we'll go to awarding of contracts, a public hearing. Tonight, we have a public hearing in regards to the special assessments for the 2018 Neighborhood Infrastructure Improvement Program. Melanie, I will turn that over to you.
Well, Your Honor and Council, thanks. I will try to step in and fill the shoes of City Engineer Ryan Stemsky, who we had our staff go home tonight due to the weather. So tonight you're requested to conduct a public hearing, and I'll do a brief presentation on the project, for which I think you're relatively familiar with. This is the second year of a 2-year project. You'll see on the map that the black items are the sections that were completed in 2017. The items identified in gold are what we are projecting to get completed in 2018. The total project is around $3 million, of which we've got $1 million in bonded debt and about $570,000 in assessments. The balance comes from our utility funds. And if we break that down over as a total project cost, you'll see that the special assessment amount, the amount that is directly paid by benefiting property owners, is just a portion of the overall project costs. So when we think about the assessments, the project this year is for neighborhood level streets, and so we look at our ordinance for non-collector roads, and that policy says that the assessment rates are based on the estimated special benefit to the properties accruing from the constructed improvements. So we use an outside assessor to help us with that project, appraiser, excuse me, to help us with that project. For 2018, the Operations Committee is recommending an assessment rate that is the same as a 2017 assessment rate, which is $85 a foot for the street reconstruction section, and for the alley, it's $15.50 a frontage foot. So from a process perspective, following the public hearing, you will be accepting any comments that may be provided, and I've got 2 that we have received. I'll touch on that in just a moment. But procedurally, if adopted, the payments can be accepted beginning October 1st, and all property owners will be given a mailing outlining what that is. Partial payments will be accepted. If there are payments that are outstanding after November 30th, that is going to be certified to your property taxes, and then it would be applied over a 10-year payoff through your property tax statement. And interest rates are typically between that 3% and 5% that are applied to that outstanding assessment. So for example, if we've got a property with a 66-foot wide standard lot, it's not on a corner, it's just a straight frontage. We take that, the assessment rate that is being recommended, and we apply that for an overall assessment amount of $5,600. If that property owner doesn't prepay any of those assessments, that's rolled onto the county property taxes, divided over 10 years, and then paid annually, or if you escrow it on your mortgage statement, you'll see that that would be about $63 on your monthly mortgage statement. As I mentioned, this is a public hearing tonight. I connected with our engineering staff prior to the meeting and to see if they had received any feedback about the project. And we have had 2 comments. One was from a property owner that really wanted an explanation. It's a large assessment because it's a double lot, and they just want a clarification of how that assessment rate was calculated. And the second one was this afternoon. We actually put some social media and worked with our local media partners to let them know that we would still be conducting the meeting. If they had any questions, to give us a call. And one resident reached out, and this property actually had an alley project. They were part of the alley project last year, and so when they got their notice with a larger assessment rate for the street project, they had some questions. And they did get a chance to connect with Ryan yet this afternoon and get their questions answered. For those assessments that are applied, we do have an assessment abatement program, and that is through the Community Development Block Grant Program. That's a federally funded program for which the City of Hastings has typically allocated those funds for assessment abatement. And so what will happen is later this year, letters will go out to all property owners. They will have an opportunity to make application. It's income dependent qualifications, and that is reviewed by the CDA based on federal guidelines. So the CDA makes a determination and then would then notify the City of Hastings if there's a partial or a full abatement qualification for any of the property owners. We would bring that back to the council for action on adopting those abatement requests. So with that, I think I'm to the end of Ryan's presentation. I probably buzzed through it a lot faster than he did, but I would be happy to answer any questions or open it for the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, Melanie. I'm going to take the opportunity now to open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak to the special assessments for 2018 Neighborhood Improvement Program? This is the time now. So, can you come to the podium, please? You have to come to the podium and give your name and address for the record. And that's okay, don't be shy. We want to hear what you have to say. Yes. Just give us your name and address, please.
Mary Johnson, 412 West 8th Street. I think we were the ones that called and I talked to Ryan.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What's your concern?
We were wondering, there was a $50 fee. Is that a per year fee?
No, it's a one-time fee.
A one-time fee?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So when it's filed, assessed on the property taxes.
Right,
Yep.
okay.
One-time fee.
And I know there was one other question, but I can't think of what it was offhand. Larry, do you remember? Interest rate?
The interest rate, I believe, it's calculated when we issue the bonds. I'm looking to Julie to affirm. Yep, so it's when we issue the bonds, and then there's a slight premium over what our interest rate is. There's a slight premium. So when you get the information about what that final amount is, it'll be on that documentation. Thereabouts, yeah.
It'll probably be similar to that this year. That bond market hasn't changed too much.
Okay. We have, it's a rental property for us. It's a triplex, and it's 2 lots, and it's a corner lot. So we have the alley and then 2 other lots, or 2 lots. So it amounted to about $16,000. So we were shocked when we got the letter. So we don't actually live there. It's a rental. So we haven't been involved in the process and didn't know the costs. But I guess it will be nice once it's done, so thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate that. And again, that was a $50 one-time fee. That was the one question was asked too. Okay. One-time fee. Okay. We're still under an open hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the project? Anyone else? Anyone else like to speak to the project? Okay. I'll close the hearing then. Hearing is closed. Council, this issue is now before the council. Councilmember Vaughn.
I just want to clarify for the Johnsons here, is that $50 per address? Because they have 2 lots? So each address is $50 for that, okay. Thank you.
Okay. This issue is now before the council. Councilmember Balsanic.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I just feel it's good to note at this stage that by Minnesota statute, your assessment cannot be more than what the increase in the value of your property will become once the project is completed. I think it's important for anybody in the project area to remember that, so that if, and you'll have to help me out here, Melanie, when that amount is actually finalized, there's a length of time that you have to appeal that assessment for the amount that would be over what you would consider your property to increase in value. Now, you know, there's some bookwork, homework that the property owner would have to do. You would have to, you know, pay for somebody to do an official valuation of your property, looking at the amount. So let's say if the assessment is $7,000 for the property, does the property increase in value that $7,000? If it's if the evaluation was done and that official appraisal, that's the word I'm thinking of, if the official appraisal came in at, say, $3,000, but you're being assessed $6,000, then there would be an opportunity for you to appeal that additional $3,000 amount. Am I explaining that? And your head is shaking, so I'm not sure I am. But
Well, I think,
if you could clarify that for me, I would appreciate it. But we do have this process that's available to property owners.
sure, Your Honor and council members, I'm going to go back a couple slides. I'm going to go back all slides, apparently, and then I'm going to find the right one. So this is what I think Councilmember Balsanic is referring to. And you are correct that the assessment amount isn't tied to the cost of the project. It's tied to the benefit of those improvements to your property. And so that's where we get that appraisal amount. And if you look at the top of that screen, you'll see that the benefit appraisal rate has been determined to be $121 a foot. The assessment rate that the City Council or the Operations Committee is recommending and that the City Council adopted in 2017 is $84.85. So our process is we take that appraisal rate, we take 90% of that. That's we take 90% right away, and then based on overall project costs, needing to meet the benefits of the 429 project, as well as kind of our historical rates, we come up with the Operations Committee assistance with what that final rate is going to be. So the assessment rate for 2018's project is the same as 2017. And this is the time when you would need to file an appeal for that assessment rate. So all the property owners have gotten the notification of what their proposed assessments will be. If the council adopts those rates this evening, those are the assessments that will be applied to each individual property. So tonight is the night that you would need to file that appeal, and then there's a process by which you would need to fill out paperwork and do all of that. But we need a written appeal tonight if a property owner was to appeal the paperwork for the assessment that they have been provided. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much. In your case, because you've got, you know, the 2 lots, it doesn't cost you anything to, if you would want to, just to protect yourself, you could just, you know, fill out a sheet of paper, say that you're appealing the assessment rate, and then the door,
I think we'd like to do that, especially based on what you just said, as far as the assessed value of the property going up as to what it's actually gaining from the project. Because it's not benefiting both lots, it's benefiting the property as a whole, I guess.
right. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that the alley, which was done last year, or that's all being done this year? Okay. At any rate, it just, I brought the whole thing up because, and I can see we have thousands of people here tonight besides you, you know, listening in on all of this, but that appeal process has to be done before we vote on it tonight. So if you would want to submit that, it doesn't cost anything, right, to submit that appeal right now? Am I correct on that?
Your Honor and Counsel, that's a true statement. Anybody could submit in documentation to appeal it. However, the actual process of the appeal going forward, there would be a cost to those individual property owners, and they would need to determine whether that is something that they would be interested in pursuing.
Right. But at least it gives you some wiggle room. So, you know, file that tonight, see what it's going to cost you, if it's worth it, because sometimes, unfortunately, the cost of the appeal outweighs the amount you're going to save on it, and so to a certain extent, you're kind of over a barrel. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to investigate that. I know I did that when the 7th Street project was done back in 2008 before I was on the council. I'm not going to go into the details on it, but it did allow me, along with other property owners, to say, well, you know, let's take a closer look at this to see. So you've got the information. You know, you can do what you see fit. Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, I would say that, you know, that is very unusual advice, Councilmember. I think that the appeal process is, you know, certainly is something that you could pursue. I wouldn't tell anybody not to pursue that. I don't know if I would promote it, and one of the reasons why I would say that is that the reason why the assessment rate is set at $84 is to make sure that it's way underneath the benefit. The benefit is supposed to be at 90%, okay? Well, that's $121. Where did the city council set the benefit at? $84. So I think it would be very difficult, and this is, you can do what you want to do, but I think it would be very difficult, okay, to any homeowner to try to prove less benefit than that. I mean, that's why the operations committee went for the $84. And one of the reasons why the $84 was set is there's a floor as well. We would like to set some of these even a little bit lower and have the city pay a little bit more, but we are regulated to a certain extent that we can't have the floor go down further. So we had to set it at $84. And so I don't know if I would offer that advice, Councilmember. It's highly unusual, but you know, that's usually a judgment made by the homeowner, and I'll leave that to your judgment. But I just want you to know where the city stands and where these assessments are set, and we feel that we can prove benefit based on the $84. Councilmember?
And thank you, Your Honor. Your point is very well taken. I'm not saying that what we have assessed is unfair. You know, and I'm on the operations committee when we set what the rates would be. You know, and again, you know, on my experience, I've been on the operations committee since I've been on the council, and we feel as though we do set them at a very reasonable rate. Your assessment, individual property owner's assessment, is what percent of the total amount?
Well, the total amount is $539,000 of assessments,
Right,
and they're at 16,000.
right. So you've got a lot of benefit that's coming from the other citizens of Hastings, because a good portion of the project is being paid for by property tax that is collected from the properties in the
It's
city.
nearly a $3 million project, where 539,000 is coming out of assessments.
Is coming out of
If you're making
assessments.
that comparison.
Right, right. But my point is that the law is the law. You know, with all due respect, you're not an attorney. God knows I'm not an attorney. Nevertheless, the law says that this is your right to do if you choose fit. And, you know, you'll know once you do a little bit of homework on the whole thing. So it was not my intent to say, oh, we're overdoing this in terms of what the assessments would be. But, you know, I just feel we've got a legal responsibility to make that known to everybody that's in the project area, or any project area that would come up before the city.
And I think that was communicated through letters too, to all the property owners.
Yes, you know, the letter that was sent out saying, here's what it's going to be. You do have the right of appeal up to the vote at the city council meeting, which is tonight. So you know, this is not something that we're trying to, you know, run through without anybody knowing about. We have always made this information available. But again, you know, people do have the legal right to do this. So yes, thank you very much for pointing that out. Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Council, we have this issue before the body. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Balsanic?
Well, I would just like to add, and I know I said this a couple of months ago, this is the last street improvement project in Ward 2. And with Ward 2 being the area of the city that has some of the oldest abstracts in the city, this is like the icing on the cake, and I'm very pleased that we are finally getting this done. I've had people stop by on Halloween night saying, Joe, when are we going to get our streets done? I've got a couple of neighbors down the street that have reminded me a couple of times a year that their house was the first house in the city to have water and sewer hookup, and that was almost 100 years ago, if not at least 100 years ago. So we will be replacing public works stuff that's underground that has held up and is hanging on, I think in some cases by a thread. So I'm very pleased to see that this is going to complete all of our street improvement projects in Ward 2.
Is that a motion?
Therefore, I will make a motion that we do
Councilmember
accept,
Balsanic makes a motion
that we
to
do,
approve.
yes, to approve.
Seconded by Councilmember Fulch. Since you made that announcement, Councilmember, I'm gonna, you know, before we vote, if there's going to be an appeal, it has to be submitted right now. Okay, if you can put your name and your addresses, the properties, just say something that, you know, we appeal the assessment at this property, and hand it to me. Thank you. Okay. Can you date it for me too? Okay, March 5th, okay. Okay. I'm gonna put that at 7:25. Okay, council, we have before us the motion Is there any further discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay, next we have comments from the audience. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Okay, council announcements? Announcements. Okay. Councilmember Vaughn?
Yeah, just FYI, the Red Rock Corridor meeting got canceled for March 22nd. But thanks, tonight we approved the new joint powers agreement, so our next meeting will be in May.
Okay, great, thank you. Councilmember Fulch?
Your Honor, thank you. I just had a concern, and I wanted to bring up, I keep forgetting to send a note, and so I'm just going to voice it now. I have noticed over the course of the winter when I'm going southbound on Highway 61 that there's a stretch of the roadway on the west side between 23rd Street and 25th Street that none of the business owners have plowed the sidewalks along that section the entire winter. And so I remember going to the Vermilion Corridor feedback for the community, that workshop that happened a few months ago, and there were a few folks that had brought up the fact that sometimes there are certain sections of the roadway where the business owners aren't removing the snow, and I just noticed it, and I just wanted to make sure that the staff were made aware of it, and if they could address it, that would be awesome.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Staff will contact those business owners, send them a letter, let them know.
Thanks.
It's very important, because I know there's some folks in our town that are disabled and that depend on walkways, and these sidewalks are being open for mobility, and it's a very important issue, so thank you for bringing that forward. Okay, announcements? Councilmember Balsanic?
Well, kind of going along with that, and speaking of Ward 2, I did a drive around last week because of all of the snow that's been around. And, going through the ward, I just want to thank all of the Ward 2 property owners for taking care of the fire hydrants, keeping them cleared in case of an emergency. Everybody's been doing a diligent job of taking care of that. And I'm sure you'll be out there tomorrow or within the next 48 hours after this storm tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Brox?
There is a Public Safety Committee meeting on Thursday morning, March 8th, from 7:45 to 8:45, and we will be discussing mobile food units, also known as food trucks. We're going to be discussing some policies related to downtown Hastings, areas where they can be located, fees associated with it, etc. So if anybody's interested, please join our meeting here at City Hall.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other announcements? Okay, I have just a few announcements. Thursday, March 8th, that was just announced, excuse me. The next one is Hedra will be meeting on Thursday, March 8th as well at 6:30 p.m. here at Hastings City Hall. So Thursday, March 8th, Hedra at 6:30 p.m. On Monday, March 12th at 7 p.m., the Planning Commission will be meeting here in this chamber. And on Tuesday, March 13th at 2018 at 6 p.m., the Finance Committee chaired by Councilmember Vaughn, with members Brox and Balsanic, will be meeting to discuss the Riverfront Renaissance 3.1, which is the alley by the Legion there. And also at 6 p.m. that same evening, the Parks and Recreation Commission will be meeting. Our next City Council meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 19th at 7 p.m. Council at, I believe at 5:30, we'll have discussions with MnDOT and have that meeting with MnDOT at 5:30. That's been rescheduled for that time. I have no other business before our body, and there is no other business before our body, so a motion to adjourn is in order. Councilmember Lund makes that motion, second by Councilmember Brox. That is a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails, and we are adjourned. Thank you.